I wonder if it's TreVeyon Henderson.
So it's going to be a weapon. TreVeyon, let's go! TreVeyon Henderson, baby.
All right.
What did I say? I said earlier today that like last year I watched Jalen Polk in the 11th hour and was like, I actually like this guy. TreVeyon Henderson I watched for the first time today and was like, I like this guy.
Wow.
A running back. It's a little early for running back for me. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
I know. All right. I can live with it.
I'm cool with this. So a big thing about this, I think, is one, the character was a big part of it. Like when I was looking, so the reason I decided to finally watch TreVeyon was I'm thinking about what Vrabel said about wanting the character guys and all that and the toughness. And I'm like, all right, I read the scouting reports. TreVeyon stood out because he was a captain. He's very selfish. He's physical. Like it all sounded great. And we know that Ellie Wolf keeps telling us that they really like the running back class. And I'm watching this guy and I'm like, he's a perfect complement to what they have. He's got the speed, the explosiveness, receiving ability, great blocker. I really like this pick for them. And I understand the value people may not like, but if you wanted best player available, if they didn't like Luther Burden in terms of the off-field stuff, Donovan Izaraku probably is better value pick, but I really like TreVeyon Henderson, so I'm cool with this.
So what does this mean for, as we talk about, this, you might have felt safe in your job in Foxboro last season, and you're Ramondre Stevenson, and you signed an extension, which was even at the time before he fumbled, 40 times during the year, a questionable move for, somebody who I think is a mid-tier talent, but clearly to me more one of the running backs that you use up on a rookie deal and you move on to the next guy and just keep rotating through, not a re-sign guy. So I was surprised that was it, but that was a lot of what the business that the Patriots did was kind of re-sign the guys we want to keep and let's at least have some professional people here. And Stevenson fell into that mold. Not only was he fumbling, you could argue he was less effective than Antonio Gibson at the end of the year. Yep. And Vrabel has said everyone gets a fresh start, which is a good and a bad thing. Like you could have sucked, but you could be good for me, or you could have been somebody the past regime liked, and that doesn't mean anything to me. And that, if you're Ramondre Stevenson right now, you have to wonder what your standing is in Foxboro.
I think it's good. And this is again, like this is why I mentioned the 2011 class, they double dipped at running back, even though they already had Ben Jarvis Green Ellis and Danny Woodhead, who were pretty like entrenched starters at that point. So
Ben Jarvis
is going to be a true rotation, but TreVeyon Henderson fumbled one time in college, at least as a rusher. So that's the big thing. It's like, if you can't trust Ramondre and if you can't trust Antonio Gibson, all right, TreVeyon, you're the guy. Don't put the ball on the ground.
Well, it's an athlete. Like an athlete,
yes,
like a 4.4, like a 4.4, 40-inch vert athlete, 11 foot broad jump. Like this guy is an athlete. So you're adding an explosive element to your game. And again, we're talking about beefing up the offensive line here. And I know you work your way, right to left here. I do believe that you can open some holes for people much better than they were able to do last year. I don't know exactly where they're going to be in pass pro all the way across. You still have no clue what's going to happen at left guard. Center is still a bit of a question mark there, but I don't hate this at all. I really don't, because here's the thing. You're talking about where the value was in this draft. The value was, especially in day 2, running back and edge, right? Like among the
injured corners.
Yeah, right. But right, exactly. Among the areas that people thought there's some great players that you can get here. You got a guy that might be, the second or third running back on the board in a class where people are predicting there's going to be 5 guys that are going to be 3-down starters in the NFL, maybe by the end of year 1. So this is a pretty high level talent to get, even though second round, it does feel like a bit of a luxury pick, for the Pats here. But if you don't love a receiver, if you don't think Burden is any better than what you've got in your room right now, if that's their evaluation, then why bother, right? You know, like that I understand. If they're looking at it and being like, I've got 5 Luther Burdens right now. I'm trying to figure out what to do with these guys. I've got DeMario. Like, I'm okay. I'm going for a home run here. This feels like a home run swing. So you might not love it, but you got a talent.
And we keep talking about, like, Mike Vrabel said he wanted to take the best player available. That's where he leans philosophically. I don't think it's a crazy stretch to say that they maybe had TreVeyon Henderson higher than a Donovan Ezeraku or than a Luther Burden, because Luther Burden, like we said, there were some question marks, and whether or not you agree with them, the team maybe just didn't want to take that chance because they said this is a big culture draft for them. And then Ezeraku, like, they know him very well. I'm sure if they really thought he was, the kind of guy they needed to add to this room, they would have. And really, if you look at the consensus, so I'll look at the guys that were on the board. So Mike Green was never going to be, I think, on their board. Shedeur Sanders, obviously, no. Luther Burden, Donovan Ezeraku, Siobhan Ravel, Nick Scorton. That one, I don't personally love Nick Scorton. I would have understood it. And for the edge rushers, I think there's a bit of a drop after him. I wouldn't have minded it. But if maybe they just didn't really like him or have him as high, then it's Benjamin Morrison, Ariante Ursary, Azariah Thomas, Mason Taylor, Xavier Watts.
Bears took Burden.
Luther Burden's gone. Chicago took him.
Yep. Go ahead.
That's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry. Let me make sure that I've got this so the only players that I think would have made sense were Donovan Ezeraku and Nick Scorton and maybe Trey Amos. Those were the players that were higher that were available. So I don't think it's like this crazy reach where we're talking like Jalen Pope. Maybe could have had him in the middle or the end of the second round. This is one where, like, no, the consensus had him at pick 37.
I wouldn't have been surprised if Henderson
40.
I wouldn't have been surprised if Henderson went in the first round last night. So
right.
Like, I don't think it's a reach for the player. I really just wonder where the room, you have Ramondre, you have Antonio Gibson. Like, yes, he can do more. He has a higher ceiling.
Jags,
I know, but so are all, like, a lot of running backs end up turning into Jags. And look, I don't love it as much as you guys.
It's not
I'm okay with it. Yeah. It just kind of feels like I wanted more at a position of need. And I went over I always lean towards draft for need, and it's not the right way to do things. It's really not. And, you wonder if Tom Curran's kind of been floating that Ramondre Stevenson could be traded at some point. He was talking about that this offseason. You wonder if they just lean into TreVeyon Henderson as your lead back. That would change things, but we'll see what happens.
Could you live with another Polk? Like, not as bad. Polk had a historically bad rookie year, so not that bad. But, like, again, this is the reality of this draft that I think we've known all along was you're going to draft a tackle that's not really a tackle, and there's not the receivers that you want. So this wasn't a great year to suck again if those were the two needs that you needed to fill. It would have been nice if you hit on your lineman in your last year, but you missed. And you weren't going to do it again this year, most likely. I mean, you took your shot at Campbell, but I just don't think the receivers were there this year. And I think think what you will about Burden. Maybe he was the guy, maybe he wasn't. But if he's not their guy, it does feel like I don't mind going in this direction. And again, offense. I'm glad that this happened because I was afraid after the lineman situation that Vrabel might kind of, do the Belichick thing and get into defense because I like defense and that's what I know. And that, but he didn't. We're offense, 2 picks in. And I feel pretty good about that.
I knew as well. Like, and hey, this is the philosophy, right? They told us you want to get the best player available. It makes sense. Now stick to it, right? Continue to do this where if we start seeing reaches and it's like, all right, that's way off the consensus board. Now, if they, if they end up taking, say, I'm trying to think of like a Jalen Rivers, say. It's like a guard type. He's 4th round. If they take him in the 3rd, then you start saying like, all right, what are we really doing here? You're reaching for something you may perceive as a need. I'm kind of reaching there. That's just kind of the first guy that popped into my mind. But I understand people aren't going to be happy with the positional value. But again, they said they had a philosophy. And I really do think that Henderson isn't just a running back. This is a guy where he could be on the field while you have Antonio Gibson on the field, while you have Ramondre on the field. And it's not like, I'm sorry, really quick. But remember like with in 2022 where they did it with Zeke and Mondre, and you're like, I know what you're trying to do, That's not what these guys are. They're not fast enough. They're not versatile enough. Henderson's the kind of guy where you can have him as a bit of a joker in the backfield, in the slot, in motion, and they actually have to respect him because he is a legitimate home run threat, and he's got the route running ability and the catching ability to be a threat all over the field. So again, I understand why people are going to say running back, ew. I don't think he's just a running back, which is also why I was higher on Genty, because even if he's like an elite tackle breaker, but he can't catch, it's like, no, he can pass block, he can catch, he can run. He's a weapon. And that's what this team needs more than anything, more than a receiver, more than a tight end. They need weapons. They got the offensive line. Now they address and get a weapon. And I think the best one that was available outside of Luther Burden.
TreVeyon Henderson's best college season was 4 seasons ago in 2021 when he had 183 carries, 1,200 yards, and his best receiving year as well. He had 27 catches for 304 touchdowns. He does have both the receiving and the running ability, obviously. He does have a lot of tread on his tires. He's been a fringe starter for Ohio State. He obviously split with Judkins, the last couple seasons, and I think he's dealt with some injury, but he also does have an explosiveness to his game. We know it from the 75-yard touchdowns he was ripping last season, but I guess I wonder about the tread on the tires, but also, and I've talked about it, Taylor, with you on the show, like, I am of the mindset where you can't hitch your wagon to a running back. You kind of just got to rotate them through and keep getting new ones. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why I'm also okay with this pick, because it's not like they spent 4 on Genty, right?
Right.
You have Ramondre. You used him for a couple seasons. You did sign him to a 4-year extension less than a year ago. Really, it's like a 2-year. He's already through 1. So,
they can get out of it pretty
that
easily.
Money's
next
movable.
year. Yep.
And now you reset another running back contract with a guy who he doesn't, like I mentioned the tread on his tires. He's a guy who has played a lot of football. But
Chuck just went to the Saints, by the way. Sanders is playing in the CFL next year.
Wow. That's wild.
Didn't mean to interrupt you. I just think it's interesting.
No,
every time a quarterback goes
in. Now I think it's personal. Like, he's not that bad. Tyler Shaw is like Tyler Shaw is best friends with like Brock Purdy.
Wow.
This dude is old as hell. And like, I know quarterbacks, not the same shelf life.
Holy shit.
Mike, sorry, continue. I didn't mean to jump in there.
I feel bad for Shedeur Sanders. Like, that's crazy.
I do too. I'm now rooting for him. I think
that dude's 26 years old, Tyler Shaw. When did someone say it on our show last night? I don't know where I heard it. He was Justin Herbert's backup at Oregon in 2018. Tyler Shaw. Get a job. Now, granted, he has a job. So, like, good for him. He stuck it through. I'm not taking it away from Tyler Shuck. Obviously, I'm only joking around with that. But how does he go ahead of Shedeur? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's no Chris Wenke, but he's close. He's close. I wanted to add this on the Henderson thing, just in terms of kind of what you're trying to do as the Patriots. Like, you're not good enough to turn the ball over as much as you did, and that has to be a bit of a concern. But also, you don't want Drake May running as much. You know what? Like, you want to use him where you want to use him. But it's also nice to have some, a 3-down back with long speed who's also elite in pass protection. So again, you're still building up your offensive line. It is an area here that you have to consider that's important here, which is you just added to your pass pro with a guy who can be on the field for 3 downs. Whether he will be early on in his Patriot tenure, who knows? But I mean, over time, the assumption is that you could bring him in here. And I personally love, you got to love the 3-down backs, the guys with 3-down capabilities, because you just don't want to be tipping your hands all the time when you just have your clear 3rd down back. You want guys who can do it all. And I do like that. And just as a, 2 jobs in 1 sort of thing. I prefer this to them having grabbed a 3rd down back in the 4th round or the 5th round to go along with Ramondre Stevenson. Again, you're never going to fill every single hole and every single need here. I can get on board with this pick for sure. You know why? Because all of us kind of sort of a little bit wanted Genty, even though we knew it was horrible, a little bit. Right?
No. I was getting
we kind of saw Taylor put him at the top of his board.
Don't put that on me.
Taylor's excitable. But
I like stuff.
I like stuff.
CLNS Patriots coverage is powered by Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup.